Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a very fun, very interesting, and very informative video for you guys tonight because we're going to be talking about the fact that Rumble support is going to be coming to Super Nintendo games soon. This is all predicated on a video I did earlier this week where I went over Limited Run Games' new version of Doom, as well as the controller they added into the bundle that has vibrating motors inside of it, because it isn't just vibration, it's all of the underlying code that allows you to add these vibration cues to games. Limited Run Games said that they were going to open source that. They've already given it to some developers to kind of play around with and work on. Kandowontu sent me over a beta of Star Fox that's basically the Shindou Edition that he is making. And if that name doesn't sound familiar, back in the Nintendo 64 era, there were special Shindou releases in Japan that added Rumble support to games that initially didn't ship with them. So when we talk about Limited Run Games adding Rumble support to Doom, what it really means is now the community is going to have access to this code in the future so that they can add Rumble into any games they want, existing games as well as brand new games. There's going to be a complete new kind of definition to Super Nintendo games. You're going to have that force feedback rumble in the controller, and you're going to be able to get a little bit more immersion from the game. And I totally understand. We're just playing Star Fox right now, and you can't experience the rumble that's going on in my hand while I play Shindou Edition, but it is there, and it totally gives the game that much more immersion and that much more fun. And it's going to be really exciting to see in the future what developers can do with this rumble support, because it isn't just one thing for Limited Run Games to add it into a game and keep all of that source code closed so only they have Rumble in games they want to release. And obviously in the past I've been not quite kind to Limited Run Games, talking about their CDRs, talking about the recycled chips, and I still firmly stand behind those statements. And I'm not saying one good game cart and one open source piece of code is going to make everyone love them, but it is a really nice start because it is large companies that can come up with these innovations that can then trickle down into the community. Think about all the amazing Super Nintendo games out there. Think of something like Super Mario World but with Rumble support. And I'm sure it won't just be this controller here. I'm sure other parties are going to manufacture controllers in the future that can rumble as well, because all of these signals are pretty much standard going across the Super Nintendo port, and so long as you have that code incorporated into your game, you're going to be able to get that rumble out as well. And just so you know, both I as well as Kandowontu tested this on MiSTer FPGA with stack adapters and his own Shindou Star Fox ROM, and I was able to get MiSTer FPGA to rumble the controller just like I would expect it to, and that's going to be absolutely awesome. And this is going to work on real hardware as well. If you have a flash card and you load up something like this when it is out, you're going to have rumble support if you have the proper controller. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me if there's one game on Super Nintendo you'd love to feel rumble just to get a little more immersion, which one would it be? For me, I think it's Demon's Crest, just because I love that game and I feel like anything else to bring some extra to the table would just be a fun time. But it is one of those things, we always think that Rumble's been with us forever, but it really was something that didn't come out until the PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 era. Obviously Sega Saturn left it on the table, never did anything with it. But as you're flying around this game and things are happening, you're getting that rumble in the controller, and it really does feel very immersive because it's not like the motor's just completely on or off. You're able to kind of code it to do different things, and that really is fun. It just kind of makes it feel like as close as you possibly could be to being in Star Fox 64 that you are there. And I can't wait for everyone to get to experience stuff like this, because we have so many innovations in retro gaming in 2024 and 2025, not just including software or ROM hacks. We have stuff like the Sega Neptune recreated from scratch by Kosam the Great, who's also working on a Super Nintendo CD recreation. And now we have stuff like Rumble support coming to Super Nintendo, and that's thanks to Randall Linden, the lead developer of the version of Doom for Limited Run Games on Super Nintendo, basically creating this code from scratch and then helping other people kind of understand how it works, because the developer I was talking to, Kandowontu, was sent the same prototype controller I got to review, and he's been working with it on his ROM hacks, and that is great, because if you think about it like this, as soon as the community gets a hold of everything, suddenly you're going to see a ton of proliferation going around as to how it gets used. And I can think of so many fun games that could use Rumble in so many fun ways. Think about something like Super Mario Kart having a little bit of Rumble that kind of changes itself as you go over different textures. Now, it's not going to be as impressive of a Rumble as something like Switch 2 or modern controllers where they have a very haptic feedback, but it's going to be great with these Rumble motors in the controller. It's time for a soundtrack sample, just because the music in Star Fox is great, but come back, I'm going to talk about Star Fox EX Rumble next. Now, if you don't remember my video that I did maybe late last year, and I'm sure you don't, Kandowontu is also working on Star Fox EX, which is basically a brand new version of Star Fox in its own way, and this is going to be something that's going to get Rumble support as well. So sure, the two examples here are going to be Star Fox, but it really does mean that any single game can have this. Sure, ROM hackers are going to have to actually go in and add the flags and deal with that in the background, and it will take some time, but I'm sure by this time next year, you'll probably have dozens upon dozens of games on Super Nintendo that you can use a flash cart with and play on real hardware or play on MiSTer FPGA with Rumble support. Now, I did try to kind of adapt this controller from limited run games over to my PC via USB adapters, and that would not rumble for me, but I'm sure it's something that just needs to be looked at because this isn't even day one stuff. This controller isn't on the market. The code is still in testing, being sent out to developers kind of to try to figure out how they can incorporate it into their game. So I'm sure things can and will change as we move forward. I'm just showing you previews of what things are to come. And again, I understand a video when I talk about Rumble really isn't something that you can experience. It's not like I can make your phone rumble like it's kind of ringing or notifications going through as you watch the video, but that would be amazing. YouTube, when are you going to add haptic feedback for videos? That would be a pretty hilarious thing to see. But just imagine all the fun developers are going to have with this and think of all the inventive ways they're going to use it. It's not just going to end up in games where it rumbles when you get hit or hit an enemy or shoot something. I'm sure you're going to see fan games and ROM hacks that basically make rumble a central feature of the actual gameplay. Because think of how many fun, interesting things could be done with that. I still remember in Metal Gear Solid when Psycho Mantis would basically use his quote-unquote telepathy powers to move your controller on his own just by using the rumble motors in there. It's one of those things, ever since we got Rumble, it's been a very big fascination to gamers, and there's so many creative developers out there that just come up with some insane ways to use what amounts to two unbalanced motors that vibrate as you kind of spin them around. And if you're wondering how important vibration technology is, you should just go ask your mother about that one. But in Super Nintendo, it's going to be a great time, and I really appreciate Kandowontu sending me over the beta for Star Fox Shindou Edition, because it's one of those things I didn't know how impactful this would be until I started playing around with it, and I don't think I could ever go back to a Star Fox that doesn't rumble when I play the game. All of these explosions, the shots, everything else, just imagine feeling that haptic feedback in your hand as you play the game, and that is why these innovations are amazing. And even though I've definitely dragged limited run games in the past on the channel for very good reasons, and would do so again in the future if they released another subpar product, seeing things like this from developers like Randall Linden absolutely make me happy. You get something brand new for Super Nintendo that it hasn't had since the day it released, and that is going to be exciting for a lot of people. Sure, it's not something like a Super Nintendo 2, a 32-bit 2D console that would be some massive innovation, but short of that, having Rumble added to Super Nintendo games is just amazing, because it's not just the gameplay you're watching, it's also the audio you're listening to, and getting that Rumble combines together to basically be the holy trinity of immersion. And that's the segue to the second soundtrack sample, and I'll be right back. I mean, it sounds incredible, and think of it this way. In the future, you could be sitting in front of your MiSTer FPGA or Nintendo 64, either with HDMI out or RGB out of the back into a PVM or something like an OLED, getting absolutely crystal clear audio, amazing visuals, and now full rumble support. With unlimited run games sent Doom, it was really fun to feel the force feedback in that controller, that rumbling motor, just kind of giving me that haptic feedback what was going on in the game. And when they said they were open sourcing the code, I figured I probably knew somebody who was working on something, and Kandowontu popped up on my Discord. He's been there for a while and said, hey, I'm going to send you over this beta ROM just to test out so you can see what other people are doing with the code, what limited run games had sent them. So it's absolutely awesome, and I'm sure in a year you're going to have a ton of games that have Rumble on Super Nintendo, and that's not that bad. Short of that, we are done. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.